Hey guys, Blake here. So today I'm going to do my review of the 2-in-1 Nintendo Switcher from HighScoreSaves.com. Let's check it out. So as you can tell, I have a 1981 Nintendo PCB. It's a Donkey Kong. And then on top of the edge connector here, I have the HighScoreSaves.com 2-in-1 switcher. This is one part of it, or the main part. And then on top of here we have a Mr. Video, which I'll do a review on as well. That gives you direct feed out of any Nintendo board. Which is made by a separate, actually a separate couple people, which, like I said, I'll do a review on at some point. Super cool device. But take this off of here. There we go. Set that down. I'll go put this elsewhere. So there's your PCB. Alright, okay guys, so now that I'm back, I have the 2-in-1 switcher right here. So basically it's this board here, not this one. So basically that's what it is here. I'm not going to take this top part off, this Mr. Video. It's kind of a pain and it's stuck on there to take off. I don't really want to take it on and off. So I'll leave it on there for right now. But this guy here, what this does essentially is it allows you to take and put two Nintendo PCBs into one Nintendo cabinet. So for instance, myself, I live in an apartment and I don't really have the luxury of having really more than a couple cabinets in my apartment. So instead of having two different Nintendo cabinets, I can just have two PCBs in one. So essentially you have let me see if I can get that to focus there. Come on, camera. Okay, there we go. So you have your pin connectors. You also can use a edge connector if that's what kind of adapter you have in your cabinet. So you could use that as well. But otherwise, if you have the little pin outs, you can use the pin little cables there. You have a power cable, which supplies power to the secondary board, which I don't have in my hand right this moment. You have a IDE connector for, I think that deals with all of your connectors here. It puts your controls and whatnot to the other board for your secondary PCB. And then you have a little volume rocker here, so you're able to, or pot, to change the volume on each individual board. So the other secondary board has a pot as well, so you can change the volume for each one and kind of match it up, which is really nice. You have some electrical internals here. I really don't know what exactly this is for. I think that may be some type of fuse or something in there. I could be wrong on that. And then you have your edge connector, which plugs into, like you saw before, your main PCB. So this part here actually goes onto the first PCB that you want to boot up to. So whenever you turn your machine on, that's what board it's going to power on first. And then your secondary little board, which I'll show you here in a few, that's the one that it'll switch to, if that makes sense. So from the time that I've had this board here and got to use it, it took a little bit of a learning curve, which I do have a separate video for that, and I'll kind of explain in this video as well. And the reason I had a learning curve with it is because on the website, if you look at the for sale page for this one, for this switcher, it says you're supposed to, I believe, press player 2 and then like right on the joystick at the same time, and it switches PCBs, which it doesn't do. So I don't know if there's a different revision of this board that previously did that and maybe wasn't updated, but that's something that I let Joe, who is the owner of HighScoreSaves.com, I let him know that that was incorrect information, and so he can get that updated and nobody else is kind of confused like I was. As far as switching to your different PCB though, in the instructions that he provides on the website that you can go ahead and grab and print or just look at on your computer monitor, it actually does have the correct way of doing it, which is holding player 2 start and then pressing player 1 start, just kind of tapping it, and then it does actually switch to your other PCB. So that does work. But as far as the learning curve that I was having with it, I have on my Donkey Kong PCB, I have a remix kit from John Kowalski, and then I also have a D2K Braze kit on there. And so the Braze kit uses player 1 and player 2 starts to switch between Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong 2. Well, that becomes a problem because this also uses player 1 and player 2 start to switch between the PCBs. So what I figured out you have to do is, if you want to switch between PCBs, and this goes for my setup only, if you have a similar setup, then this will pertain to you. So to switch between PCBs for, say, a Donkey Kong and going to a Donkey Kong Jr., what I found is you press and hold player 2 for a second or two, and then press player 1 start, and that will effectively switch and work every time. And then if you want to switch back, you do the exact same procedure for switching back from Junior, per se, to Donkey Kong. Now, if you want to switch from Donkey Kong to D2K, to do that, and the easiest method I found, it works every single time, is you press and hold player 1, and you hold it down for a couple seconds, player 1 start, and then you press and hold player 2 start, and then you let it give it a second, and it actually will switch, and then you press jump to get into that program. And if you press just player 1 and player 2 too fast, it will actually switch PCBs, and that's the kind of the cumbersome I found. So again, just follow the method of, if you want to switch PCBs, you press and hold player 2 for a second, and then tap player 1 start, and then it'll switch just fine. And then if you want to just go to D2K from Donkey Kong, you press and hold player 1 start, and then you press and hold player 2 start. I think it's for 5 seconds is what it is, and then it will actually switch. And then you should have no problems accidentally switching to PCB instead of going to D2K. So, but as far as the function of it, I really like the device. It functions as is, as it's intended, and I haven't really any problems with it. I have not messed with the volume pot yet. I don't currently have a Donkey Kong Jr. PCB on hand. I have it out for repair. So I was testing this with a double Donkey Kong board, which it works just fine with that as well. So I mean, I really can't say any negatives about the board other than the switching of PCBs, and at least in my situation with the D2K, that became kind of an issue. But I did figure that out on my own, which I'm not going to fault it. I'm not going to take away an egg for that or something, or star for that. But for anybody else that doesn't have D2K and just has like a remix kit on their Donkey Kong and a remix kit on their Junior, switching between the two, pressing player 1 and start and player 2 start, you won't have any problems at all. As far as the pros to this, I'd have to say one of the pros would be price. It is only $99.99 or $100. You get the switcher, you get the secondary edge connector, which is for the second PCB. You get this little power cable, which plugs into here and plugs into the secondary board. And then you also have your interconnect cable, if you want to call it, that plugs in from this board. And I believe that gives like power and all the type of little pass-throughs for that, and then goes to the secondary board. So you get those two cables, this board, and then you get your secondary board, which I'll have to go grab here in a second, all included. The only thing, and I think this is misinformation as well, if you follow his website, I'm not faulting Joe for this at all. I think maybe it just didn't get updated or whatnot, but it did say that if you use these little pinouts here on your, let me see if I can get this to focus, there we go. If you use these pinouts here and you don't use an edge connector, then you don't have to use a rainbow connector on your PCB, which is this cable here that gives power from the first board, your CPU board, to your video board here. And then you don't have to use this other power connector. Instead, you just use one power connector out of your power supply, and then you're good to go. Oops. So basically on his website it says if you use these pins, or the pins that separately go for the coin and your controls and all that, you don't have to use the rainbow connector, and you just use the power cables that plug into here. And that's actually incorrect. No matter what, basically, I shouldn't say no matter what, the only way this kit will work is if you have a interconnect cable or rainbow rainbow connector on the PCB, and the secondary PCB that's in there, say Junior, has to have a rainbow connector as well. So they both have to have rainbow connectors. That does not come with the kit, and that's something you have to buy separately. Or in my situation, I actually have some wires that have little pins that fit perfectly on these pinouts. I just used that and kind of made my own, so to speak. So you have to buy rainbow connectors separately. They don't come with the kit. Those are about $10. I don't know if he has them on highscoresaves.com, but you can buy them on like mikesarcade.com and some other websites. So I guess that would be not really a con, but it's misinformed on the website, at least from what I saw. And if it's marked somewhere else or stated somewhere else, I did not see it, but it definitely where I read it in the instructions that he provides on his website, it states that you don't need the interconnect cable, only if you're going to be using a edge connector then, which is not correct. So you have to use the interconnect cable, otherwise there's no way of getting power to the other side of the board. Therefore you'll get a black image, you won't get any image at all. So alright, so my rambling there, let me go put this aside here. Okay, so other than the so basically other than needing rainbow cables, so you have to have rainbow cables for both your PCBs no matter what. If you use an edge connector for the top part here, and that's how you're getting all your power and stuff to this board, or even if you're using the pinouts, have to have rainbow connectors. The other thing that was a little bit confusing, which is clearly marked on his website, so this is no fault at all and no con. This is clearly marked. You have to, and I don't think I have one sitting here. One second, guys. Okay, guys, back here. So went and grabbed some power cables here for a Nintendo power supply, just to kind of give you guys a once-over on how to connect cables to this thing. And these, like I said, are clearly marked in his instructions on the website, so you shouldn't really be able to mess this part up, but it's something important and you definitely want to know how to do, because if you have them backwards, you might fry this board, and I guess you could potentially fry your Donkey Kong board or whatever PCB you have in there. That I'm not sure of. I'm not going to test it either. So, and then another thing, when you're connecting these, an important thing to note, just make sure you just take your time, and you're making sure that you're not, see if I can get this focus again. You're not missing, and it's kind of hard to see, but you're not missing any of these pins. You don't have it like too far to the right, too far to the left. Make sure you have them connected correctly, because if you put a ground somewhere where a 5 volts is supposed to go, you might run into some issues, and I don't know what kind of issues you might have, but I don't want to find out. So basically on how you connect your cables, is so you have your solder side of your board, I'm sorry, your part side of your board, so your chips on the CPU board, so you have your chips on this side, and then your solder side is going to be the same as the solder side here. So effectively it's going to go in your cabinet like this, wood here, and then all open space here. So to connect these little cables, this one is the 9 pin, 10 pin, I think 10 pin, 9 pin, one of the two. So what you're going to do is you're going to take, and you're going to, so you have two sides, and this is a original, and it should be the same for any repro that you find, but this one, let me see if I can find it, get it to focus here. There we go. So you have your blank side or no notch side, and then you have a notch up top here. So you want this to go up, if that makes sense. So you take this guy here, and you'll plug this guy into here. Make sure you don't miss any little pegs, and then that's going to go effectively in there like this. And you want the notch on that little connector to be facing up. So let's see if I can get a good shot on that. Yeah, it's about the best as I can do. But you want that little notch facing up. So that's the way you want to do it on all of these. Now, and then we'll do so that's the bottom row, and you'll do the same way, the little notch facing up on the top row as well. So, again, you'll have them facing, that little tab facing up, and that goes for, like I said, all of them. Now, the only one that's different, and he does have this listed on his instructions as well, it's actually very verbatim, is the monitor cable. Now, if you look at this one here, and it's not going to focus here. This one has a little notch on top there. And then you have like the little line at the bottom, as I call it. You want to put the little notch that is supposed to be, let's see here. That is supposed to be facing up as well. The little notch, or the little tab there, as I call it, that faces up. So I can get that to focus here. Just like that. That's going to be facing up. And then basically this part fits onto the edge connector on your PCB, on your main one. And then once you have that on your main PCB and you have all your cables connected there, you'll take this guy, and this is keyed, so it only goes one way, and it's the same thing for the other board. Just pushes on there, simple enough. And then this guy, doesn't matter which side you use, same on both sides. And this is also keyed. This is like a regular PCI cable, PCIe cable for a computer, if you've ever custom built computers. And that just snaps on there, and it just plugs in. So then you have your two cables. Plug this in. You have all your I/O or your control panel and stuff cables that go to the little pins, and you're pretty much all set. Plug it onto the edge connector. Adjust your sound if you need to, which mine is a little low right now, which is fine. And then your cable. Okay guys, so final thoughts on this product. Is it something I'd recommend? Hell yeah. It does what it's supposed to do. Easy enough setup. As long as you know how to unplug and plug in cables, you should have it up and running really in no time. Hopefully he can get the instructions updated on his website, Joe, which I will talk to him on the phone and try and work with him and to get those updated for everyone. Kind of the best solution, 2-in-1 solution for $100. You really can't beat the price. The only thing I'd maybe like to see in the future from Joe and HighScoreSaves.com is maybe a solution for 3 or maybe 4 PCBs at a little bit lower cost than a competitor or competitive item he has listed on his website. That one is, I think, starting out at $100 or so, and you only get just the first part of it. So basically just this board here, and then you have to spend another $50 to $60 to get each individual edge connector card, and after it's all said and done, you're spending $300+ on that solution, and it essentially works about the same as Joe's. There's really not much difference between them from what he told me on the phone. So if you're looking for 2 PCBs in your one cabinet, I would look no further than the highscoresaves.com Retro Kids 2-in-1 Nintendo Switcher. So that sums up my review for this, and hope everybody enjoys. If you like the video, thumbs up. If you dislike the video, you know what to do then. And then if you have any more questions or comments, please comment down below. And then I will get with Joe if I don't know the answer to the comments, or if I do, I definitely will answer back. Let me know for any ideas for future videos for sure, or anything you'd like to see arcade related. Definitely would love to hear feedback. Thanks guys. Have a great day.